Hello everybody, welcome to a new video update. Let's start with BTC, and this is the chart that I posted earlier today, and we've been tracking regarding the daily cycles, and it's been perfect so far. You can see here the 60-day here back in Q4 after the summer. Same thing here, right? 60-day with this flash that I said BTC should avoid these potential head and shoulders that I said that in my opinion it didn't fit because it was just the end of the daily cycle and the start of a new one, and the weekly trend was strong, so we shouldn't see such a push down because it would completely remove all the momentum the BTC had in the higher time frame. Remember I mentioned these bullish divergences with the stock RSI. I normally use RSI and price for the divergences, but stock RSI is very useful because it is more sensitive to changes than RSI. So the fact that this drop wasn't really bought or let's say accepted by stock RSI because it didn't drop together with price and RSI, made me think that it was indeed a fake move to the downside, just a typical daily cycle bottom flush before starting the new leg, right? So the moment we find the bottom, and that kind of flush is normally a sign. That's why I said I wouldn't be surprised to see a liquidation candle. 100k perfectly holding with these wicks. I said it wasn't a strong support, but that was the next one, and so far so good. And now we're starting the new cycle, and we can see that it's very similar to this one. Strong push for now. Let's see. We should attack all-time high this week. I said that, and I maintain that because this new daily cycle should be strong, which shouldn't just start by chopping, right? Here it took longer because it was a reversal, but we have strong candles, and then with some reaccumulation, like confirming that we were back, right? Building strength before moving up. But now we are not in that kind of phase, like a weekly cycle phase. So the next push, in my opinion, is the one that will take BTC to the 135k, which is the Fibonacci, the next Fibonacci extension after this one. And then perhaps if we have the same kind of playbook, we will start building this leg with the RSI will get overheated, and then perhaps we start building some weakness right into that Fibonacci level, right? The Fibonacci level, I measure it. Some people measure it from very different points, but I think this is the more reliable this cycle because of how perfectly it has spotted the top for now and the bottom as well. So it's from the bottom of the cycle to the top in March 24. Right? That's 1 and 0. So from there, we see that we found the next Fibonacci extension to be the local top for now, and previous all-time high perfectly acting as support. So that makes me think that we can see here how the building, how breaking the previous one, which is the one we are about to do now, is the start of the last leg here. So perhaps we do the same here, right? Into another correction, and then the final move into later this year. Why do I believe this is not the cycle top? I don't think we overshoot into 1.6 for now, but I mean, I wouldn't be angry if that happened. I think there's still room for that because the monthly, has shaped wonderfully for BTC. I mentioned that it was as reset as early 2023 in terms of monthly chart. We just had the monthly cross. I posted today total 3 is close to having this kind of cross. That's why it's trailing BTC. Normally BTC leads, so all good. And now we can see the place where BTC has bounced and all the space we have, all the room we have to grow and enter in real euphoria, right? From the 200 perspective, we can see that the perfect bounce from the 50, which is something I posted over the weekend, it's something that it's a trend line that has maintained the short-term momentum, the strength, right into the next top, right? So the 200 is mandatory for a new leg, like here at the bottom of the bear market, we reclaim and retest it several times and off we go. And then the 50 is like the short momentum, but the multi-week leg for BTC or for any asset. So in this case, perfect bounce from the 50, telling us this was just the first daily pullback in the first daily cycle. All good. High highs and high lows, all respected, good to go, right? The 4 hour, it's not as important now, but we can see it was just a fake out, right? The daily flush, daily cycle low flush, and now we're back on track, right? We've been respecting it. You can see again how the 4 hour, the 50 has been respected until the daily cycle low, and then we're back on track. If we move to total 3, I mentioned it could just end up being a deviation, any wick below to trap people, and so far so good. We are back on track, back above 840, and this inverse head and shoulder slowly playing out. It will take time, but the moment we break 950, I think it's go time for altcoins. I think this should be a fast move. Daily cross, bullish, no divergences inside. This was again the bullish divergence here. It was reflected by all major charts that this was just a liquidation, a trap kind of candle. And now we're back on track. Nothing to worry about on the weekly. You can see clearly how it was just a wick, something I commented in the last video. This could be just the, let's say, retest of the MA. Nothing to worry about, confirm we're back. Again, don't worry about the stock RSI, it's more sensitive, so we can just curl up, curl back up, and up we go, like we did here, right? So nothing to worry about here, all good, all healthy, rejected by this important level, maintaining the next Fibonacci as support, and then we continue. It's like the inverse kind of move that we had in this downtrend, right? That's why it's an inverse head and shoulder. And I said it's very similar to the Russell. Yeah, let me just Russell 200. Yes, this is it. And the Russell 200, this is the small caps for stocks, has also been printing this. This is not the best way to see it. Let me just open the daily. Here it is. This kind of inverse head and shoulder as well, right? And it's breaking right now, right? Perhaps it's a bit confusing here because of all the trend lines, but I don't want to, I'm gonna remove them just for a second. So we can see it is already breaking and total 3 is still lagging compared to that. Actually, if we were to be in the same spot right now, we would be around 940, something like that already. So I think that's why I believe it is lagging, right? So it should be pushing up. Small caps are pushing on the stocks, and that's good for our altcoins if this correlation is to be maintained. So I think it's so far so good. From the 200 perspective, all total 3 has done is just retest the lower bound of the 200-day, well, a little fake out. Now regaining the 50-day, something we saw here. I said this was just another kind of range here, right? This new range. So the moment we break this, all-time high is pretty much next. All good, just retests. For our perspective, I'm gonna remove the drawing. Trying to reclaim it again after the flush, after losing it temporarily. Nothing we haven't seen before. This was the trap that I posted in Q4, the rejection from all-time high. Many people might go trapped here, selling because it was over, and then up we go. All good. In terms of, if we move to others, trying to reclaim this kind of mid-range, bullish crush, all good, high highs, high lows in all this structure. Nothing to worry about. Pretty much similar to total 3. When we break this kind of 300 level, we open the door to attack the potential new all-time high. So it's all going well. In terms of moving averages, a little bit below the total 3, but again, trying to reclaim the 50 and then the 200. We did the same pretty much in Q4. Again, it's all what we have been seeing and paying attention for quite some time. The 4-hour already working its way up to reclaim the trend, and all good. If we move to our USDT, dear friend, we can see that it's been acting perfectly in a downtrend, but all this chop, if we are not used to patterns, if we get stuck in the low time frame, we might get confused. So we saw this bear flag, ended up in the trend continuation, and now this rising wedge testing many people. I pointed out that this daily push after this bullish divergence that I mentioned here, right into an intermediate support, right? This one. I said that it should revert, right? That this was a bearish divergence building. It extended a little bit more. I mentioned it down here. I thought these weekly candles were enough, but it was building a rising wedge, and it should break to the downside if BTC was just confirming the new daily cycle, and so has happened. This kind of, again, I said that BTC was showing strength and stock RSI wise, that they didn't buy that flash we saw recently, and USDT the same way, but inversely. This push wasn't really bought or real for stock RSI. This was a fake push, in my opinion, kind of trappy move. So I mentioned that losing the EMA on the daily could confirm the break of this rising wedge, and so far so good. We will probably meet with 4.5 next, but this is the main area we need to break for a real push down, because it was the local top for BTC and the local bottom for USDT, which is 437. Remember that I said the USDT market cap keeps increasing, so every drop is more substantial in terms of money and price. Perhaps by the time we get to 437, BTC is not just at previous all-time high 111, I think it is. Perhaps we are around 120, because there's more money in the system. Remember that, right? So we will pay attention to oscillators, but levels could be a little bit modified by the time we find the potential local tops and bottoms, and that's why I'll pay attention to oscillators more than just levels in this case. The same of the 200. We mentioned that the Q4 we had several attempts to break the 200. We just had that after potentially reclaiming, and this fake, it was just a fake above. We need the lower bound now to break and confirm that we are going to attack 437 and potentially 377 as the local top at maximum, but I don't know if we will get there, considering there's way more money than the last time we got there. Again, if we compare it to the market cap, you can see that by the time we got here, USDT was around 140k. 140 billion market cap. Now it's like 15 billion more. So obviously we might top earlier in terms of USDT. We will track it. BTC dominance, yes, it's something we don't want to see for our altcoins. This uptrend is strong, but let's see how strong it is. I don't want to see another high just because it would mean a little bit more pain for altcoins. I insist this is the top for the cycle. I don't care if I get it wrong, but that's my feeling, right? We could easily roll over at some point, but remember that BTC dominance going up means BTC has fuel left, and we want that. Otherwise, I wouldn't like to see BTC pushing while altcoins are outperforming so early, because that means that perhaps by the time BTC gets to the next Fibonacci level, altcoins won't really push more beyond that, and it's a complete rollover, like we saw in Q4. Pretty much all coins and BTC topping at the same time. We don't want that. We want BTC to get to their next local top, and then BTC dominance roll over to just say, okay, BTC, this is all I have. Now it's time for altcoins. While BTC rests around that area, right? Perhaps building some weakness, while it all rotates down to altcoins, BTC dominance drops, hopefully to around the 200 moving average, but that would be a substantial drop and a very good weekly cycle for altcoins. And then BTC, we enter in a correction. BTC dominance skyrockets again in summer, even though BTC is retracing, because it means altcoins are also retracing in a big correction in summer, and we get into the final move in Q4. But it could also happen that we just enter this kind of, with the China agreement and something like that, we enter in that final blow of top right into summer. But I don't think that's not my main scenario for now. I think further cuts by the Fed announced, for example, in summer, that might align with the correction, because markets tend to believe that kind of cuts initially are bearish because it means something is wrong. But perhaps later we see it wasn't really that bad. It was just that such tightening, it wasn't really necessary. Markets see there's a stability and there's even more money. Inflation is very under control. And we have that final blow of top move before everything really cracks. And that could be Q4. And that's when altcoins outperform. We can see, and I just showed that, the Russell 2000, which is the small caps, are already pushing. And that normally happens at the end of the cycles where small caps, small companies really feel loosening conditions, even though we haven't had that yet, right? Because the tightening is still there. But they might be anticipating that change in trend, right? The official saying, okay, inflation is way lower than we expected, and we change the narrative. We are not cutting because everything is going bad, but because it's no longer necessary. That's the only narrative to show positive cutting. And remember that no official, no government, no one wants to say clearly admit that we are in a recession. That's why we are cutting. Not even in 2008, right? They're going to try to disguise and mask it to pretend that everything is under control. And we might have those months, explosive months, something that total 3 from the monthly perspective, as I posted today, is showing. It is showing that it is a complete reset here of sentiment in 2025, while RSI might cross. We are pretty much like the same levels stock RSI wise as 2023. So we haven't even crossed in these attempts the 70 RSI. BTC dominance in terms of extension is in that 1034 days area. Still, that would be early July, the start of the outperformance. And that aligns with total 3 saying, okay, we might enter that for months now. We haven't even crossed this euphoria phase, euphoria area. See when we crossed it. Early January, when everyone, 2021, when everyone was were calling for no oil season this cycle. Boom, euphoria. I think total 3 is telling us that we are not ready, perhaps. So when people start doubting, that's when normally the market says it's time to move. Lastly, I want to take a look at Ethereum, because I posted recently that this looked like a distribution because of the loss of strength here on RSI. Very clearly, this is a daily, but it could also be reaccumulation. That's difficult to tell, right? I commented the difference, the similarities with BTC top in 2021, but that was the weekly. But it was pretty much the same, losing strength. The difference here is the BTC dominance is still very high, so we haven't seen euphoria yet. I don't see any reason why Ethereum would drop while BTC is pushing. Well, it wouldn't make any sense. We know everything gravitates around BTC, so it doesn't make any sense that Ethereum now decides to drop and enter in a bear market just by itself. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't work like that. So what we are seeing now is an inverse head and shoulder that if it breaks, you can measure it, it would clearly surpass the all-time high, right? The weekly for Ethereum Might look overheated, but we know it could stay overheated for quite some time. This is something that tells me that this is not the weekly cycle push to make altcoins and Ethereum go crazy, right? Perhaps we get to around 3K, something like that, but then retest over the summer and then the final push. But this is, I don't think this is not the push. I would really be glad to be wrong, but I don't think that's the case for now. In terms of moving averages, what might look like random area to be chopping, which is around 2.5, it's not that really that random, and between 2.8. If we take a look at the daily here on the 200, it's just getting stuck between the 200 moving averages, right? It was coiling below the 50-day, broke above, and it's getting stuck here. I think this is coiling, right? The 50 is also moving, acting as potential support here. So the moment it breaks to the upside, it would be like leaving the 200 finally behind, and that would potentially be a very strong move. So I can't be bearish here at all, right? The last time Ethereum reclaimed this, all three with strength was like mid 2020, the start of outperforming BTC, right? Here it didn't even really stay above much time. It then started outperforming, climbing slowly in October 23 until the top in March, right? Even Q4 was a random kind of move because it was below. It didn't really reclaim them, let's say organically or slowly. It just broke above because BTC dominance said it was time to distribute. And we have this push, but that's why this push wasn't really strong. We didn't build any kind of base. Right now we are doing that. So it might be different, even if it takes longer, even if all this cycle is kind of push, we don't break all-time high in this push, but we bounce again from the 200, something we haven't done in a long time. And then, yes, we enter price discovery, because we can see the only time we have broken and retested it was 2020. Then we lost it this cycle. We've been chopping an attempt, lost, fake move, weak move, lost it, tried without any kind of base here above the moving average and lost it again. And this is the first time we are building a base. So perhaps we push, we go back. People say Ethereum is over, Ethereum is done this cycle because it can't break all-time high, but all it might be doing is just a confirmation that in the high time frame that we are reclaiming the 200, we go back here in summer, and then we enter the Q4. That would be great for all coins, and that aligns with my thesis that the real move is later this year. And again, we might not be ready for what a rollover for BTC and a really rollover from BTC dominance from these levels, right, to even the 200. And if we break them, as we did here in 2020, 21, this could be insane. Just even if we go to the golden ratio here, that would be huge, like almost like a 7-8% drop. That would be insane for altcoins. And imagine we really have an old season. That would be the period, because everyone is investing in old season. The period people think we are finally we are finally back. This is the start of the bull run, blah, blah, blah. They don't realize that that's always the end of the bull run. The altcoin push, right? Like the last play from this huge casino that crypto is. So remember that. If the longer we stay in that euphoria phase, the safer people will feel. The more they will stop caring about charts and just following random narratives and random targets on Twitter just to get like fuck it up all and round trip all their bags. Right? So again, we will monitor it here, even if it feels like my updates are very constant, but I want you to see how markets develop so you can learn and identify and react to potential moves rather than just panic and having no idea what to do next, because why are we dropping, right? And the same way you don't know why we are pushing. So we are trying to see here why and when everything happens and find the same kind of system to identify the rollover at the top, right? Remember, compounding is key, and we can make a lot of money just by trying to exit around the top, trying to get back around the bottom, even if it's just to play another few weeks. That could be really, really big. So for now, that's my perspective. Normal weekly cycle into summer, early summer, rollover, final push in Q4. That would align with the 4-year cycle, something that many people say wouldn't repeat because it would be too obvious. But for now, it's the only theory alive. I don't really care, but it aligns with what I'm seeing, considering the strength of BTC. It's very strong BTC dominance for now, but it also looks like it's at the end of its life, this cycle. So we'll see. You remember Ethereum BTC has been outperforming as well for quite some time, since the bottom in April, but in 2020, 2021, I think it took quite some time for it to, I think I have it in a very different chart here. You remember it took some time here. This is the bottom, they are performing, and it took some time before it really pushed, right? It was December here. It took a few months. The bottom formed August 20, like a few months. So that could align with the really, really outperformance down in Q4, but this was the starting point, right? The reversal, even though it's not as explosive as people want it to be for now. So I hope this update has been good enough and detailed enough and not very boring or long. And I will see you perhaps in a few days when we cross all-time high, hopefully. Until then, take care. See ya.